Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Retro Chat podcast. September is rocking and rolling, and we have given you some amazing shows so far here at the Retro Chat. But firstly, let's introduce myself. My name's Andy Evans. I am your host, taking you through weekly as we go hashtag back in time, looking at some of the greatest retro shows, games, wrestling events, movies, cartoons, you name it. We look at it on the show. Now, this week, as you can tell, we are talking about one of the... Is it iconic? I don't know. I don't really know where it sits, but we're talking about the VR Troopers, which was part of the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger family. We'll talk about that in just a second. Now, before we crack on with the rest of the show, let's give you some details. If you would like to join us on social media, you can do. All you need to do is head over to them down here. So social media on Facebook and Instagram is Retro Chat Podcast. You can tweet us at Retro Chat Pod, and you can join the YouTube channel, which is Retro Chat Podcast UK. You can also subscribe to the audio version of the show by going to Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or any other suitable or reputable podcast provider will have the show on there for you. Okay. So what was VR Troopers all about? Well, let's have a look. So VR Troopers, or Virtual Reality Troopers, is a syndicated live action superhero TV series which was distributed and produced by Saban Entertainment. And they did that from 1994 to 1996. Around the mid-90s, there was this huge fascination with virtual reality. It was meant to be the next big thing. And Saban wanted to capitalize and profit on the fascination of VR. And it was also meant to success the other property, I think you may have heard of it, called the Power Rangers. And in fact, the VR Troopers was the first official sister series to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And just like that program, it really was an Americanization of a Japanese tokusatsu children's program by the Toei company. And the series is actually co-produced of Toei and Cyberprod. Now, the show featured some early CGI and video effects, which were then mixed with Japanese stock footage from not one, not two, but three different platforms. There was Metal Hero Series, Superhuman Machine Matilda, there was Dimensional Warrior Spielban, and there was Space Sheriff Shoulder. In 2010, on May the 7th, the copyright for VR Troopers was transferred from its previous owners, BVS Entertainment, to Saban Capital Group and became part of the Saban franchise once again. Now, while the series was almost as successful as the Power Rangers, it was cancelled. It was cancelled after only 2 seasons. Now, this was due primarily because the available footage from Japan was very quickly exhausted. And in a number of extreme cases, multiple tokusatsu scenes were put together in one episode, which then meant that stock footage was being reused multiple times throughout the show. In fact, the other spin-off, The Big Bad Beetleborgs, which was another Saban adaptation of a Metal Hero series, encountered very similar problems. The show did, however, spawn a toy line, and it also had a video game for both the Genesis, or the Mega Drive over here in the UK, and the Game Gear. I used to love that. We should do a show on the Game Gear. The Game Gear was fantastic, right? If anybody had a Game Gear, let me know on social media, or email me, studio@retrochatpodcast.co.uk, because I used to love the Game Gear. It was always much better than the NES Game Boy at the time, because I don't know about you, it was just color, it was brilliant. Anyway, going off the subject, I never played this game though, so maybe on an edition of Retro Play we will get a copy of VR Troopers on the Game Gear or the Genesis, and we will do a play of some of the levels. Now, the show focused on 3 teenagers in their late teens. They were Ryan Steele, Caitlin Starr, and JB Reese, who lived in the fictional West Coast town of Crossroads City in California. They were regularly attended and were also teachers at Tao's Dojo, which was a karate studio. And Ryan was the most focused martial artist. JB was the computer wizard, and Caitlin was a photographer and a budding reporter. And she used to work for the local newspaper, which was the Underground Voice Daily. Now, Ryan was searching for his long-lost missing father, and one day led him and his friends to a strange laboratory. Always worrying. Inside, there was a digitized head of Professor Horatio Hart, who was a friend of his father, Tyler. He explained the truth about his life's work of having developed extremely advanced VR technology in secret. They said that VR was a dimension existing alongside our own. Within it lies mutants bent on conquering both worlds. And the main ruler is a creature known as Grimlord, who, beknownst to anybody on Earth, has a human identity as the billionaire industrialist Carl Zichter. And Zichter tries to overcome the barriers of the true reality to allow his armies easy passage from the VR world. The responsibility falls to Ryan, Caitlin, and JB of defending the planet on both sides of the dimensional barrier. Now, they have assistance in the form of armored bodies having incredible firepower, and this included eventual additions to their arsenal, such as the Turbo Cycle, the Techno Bazooka, the VR Troopatron, the VR Shoulder Cannon, the VR Battle Cruiser Interceptop, and the Flying Laser Blasting Skybase. You could not write this. Other regular characters on the show included Zeb as Jeb, Ryan's hound dog, who, after an accident in Professor Hart's lab, was now capable of human speech. Woody Stocker, Caitlin's wacky hat-loving boss at the newspaper, the Underground Voice Daily. Percy Rooney, the local mayor's nephew and Caitlin's bumbling rival reporter. And Tao, the wise martial arts sensei who owns the dojo and is also a family friend of the Steele family. There were some recurring villains as well, including General Ivar, Colonel Icebot, Decimator, the Skugs, and a lot more throughout. Now, during the second season of the show, the format changed very slightly. You see, Ryan's father, Tyler, was found and restored to normal. Then he quickly left to help the government research further into VR-based technology. With him came Ryan's new VR armor and an upgrade to his powers. Grimlord's base of operations switched from the virtual dungeon to a massive spacecraft and added new generals such as Oriclon, Despera, Doommaster, and Vixens, and the Skugs now had the ability to become more powerful in the form of Ultra Skugs. Okay. It's so Power Rangers this, isn't it? Absolutely Power Rangers this. So how did VR Troopers become? Because in pre-production, the series was actually called something different. It was called Psychon and Cybertron. And it focused on a single hero with a technological theme instead of a team of heroes with a virtual reality theme. In the Psychon pilot script, the main character was called Adam Steele, who merged with the cyborg Psychon instead of transforming into it. The enemy was Grimlord, whose alter ego was Cyrus Riker, who led an army known as the Cyberdrones. Cyrus had a son called Percy, who was Adam's martial arts rival. Adam's mentor and caretaker was a martial arts sensei called Tao. And Adam was friends with Tao's daughter Mia and a younger kid called Mouse Mackenzie. The Cybertron pilot starred Jason David Frank, who many people would know as Tommy Oliver from Power Rangers. And he played the character of Adam Steele. And the show drew its source footage from Metalda. Frank's character was depicted as a solo hero going up against an army of robots known as War Drones, who were led by Grimlord. Grimlord's alter ego in this pilot was also Cyrus Riker, played by Gardner Baldwin, who had a son named Percy, who was Adam's martial arts rival. Tao Chong served as Adam's caretaker and mentor, and just like the other pilot, Tao also had a daughter named Mia, and Doug Sloan played the part of Tyler Steele in flashbacks. The pilot included a pair of bumbling news reporters named Elmo and Scuzzy, who would serve as the series' comic relief. And its theme song was based on Ron Wasserman's great Go Green White Ranger Go song from the original Power Rangers series. So the similarities you can see there of Elmo and Scuzzy were really Bulk and Skull. So you could see how that was being intrigued. In the original VR Troopers promo, Caitlin had the last name of Hall instead of Star, and Professor Hart was played by a different actor with an entirely different voice and personality than the professor that was later used in the series. And like Power Rangers, and like we've said, VR Troopers used a combination of American footage spliced in with fight scenes from Japanese shows. All three of those shows came from Toei's Mattel Hero series. And Show Junkie Matilda provided footage of Ryan Steele's Season 1 robotic suit, Grimlord, the Virtual Dungeon, Grimlord's 4 lieutenants, Darkheart, and the military-type robots that are featured in several episodes. Dimensional Warrior Spielbahn provided footage of JB and Caitlin's robotic suits, Ivar's Icebot, Skug's, and the battle scenes involving the Skybase, Shark Cruisers, tanks, and fighter jets. And Space Sheriff Shouder provided the footage for Season 2, including Ryan's new robotic suit and the Ultra Skugs. And out of all of Saban's tokusatsu adaptations, VR Troopers uses the oldest source footage from any series. Because Shouder was aired from 1984 to 1985, making it 10 years old when first used for Troopers. Spielbahn was aired from 86 to 87, making it 8 years old when it was used in 1994. And Matilda was used in 87 to 88, making it 7 years old when it was adapted in 1994. And because more than one Japanese show was used in an episode at any given time, Ryan's alter ego was never in the same action scene as JB or Caitlin because they were taken from two different shows. Due to this reason, many episodes involved some sort of a plot device that separated Ryan from the other two, forcing them to fight separately. And almost every episode ended with Ryan or JB destroying the monster of the day. Unfortunately, poor Caitlin never actually got to destroy a monster of her own. The only time the group ever fought together or in battle grid mode was all original American footage, with the battle grid suits being low-quality spandex and the helmets simple recolors of the Red Rangers from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. For the show's first season, there was almost never any original American footage outside of the battle grid. Similar to the Power Rangers, more US fights were, however, featured in the show's second season. VR Troopers as an adaptation is different in many different ways from the Power Rangers and the Beetleborgs because it was syndicated. The monsters were destroyed more violently. Mutant and robot destructions included the monster being split in half, impaled, and decapitated. We were watching this in 94. None of the VR Trooper forms were given names since none of them had one main color. Almost 100 episodes were released during the show's 2 seasons. And although the show generated ratings almost comparable to that of the Power Rangers, by 96, all of the fight footage had been used up. All of the Metal Hero shows, all 3 of them used in the series, had a lot of human v human battles. However, because the fights featured close-ups of Japanese actors, it was deemed to be unusual or unusable. Distant shots of Japanese actors from the Shelder series were usable in some of the fights, and battles with the monster footage were also kind of limited, splicing up to 2 to 3 episodes. But otherwise, such footage was limited. In addition, because many episodes of fight footage from Metal Shelder and Spielbahn were being used in a single episode, the footage ran out faster. As a result, it was cancelled without a resolution to the series storyline, and it was cancelled in favor of the Big Bad Beetleborgs, which continued to use footage from the series Juko B-Fighter and B-Fighter Kabuto. In season 1, the show would open with the traditional "Today on Saban's VR Troopers" teaser, which showed scenes from the episode and was narrated by Dave Mello. After the miniseries called Quest for Power in Season 2, however, Ryan, Caitlin, or JB took over the part and narrated the teaser in first person. VR Troopers was, at the time, released when the Power Rangers was huge. And I couldn't help but be, in 1994, hooked on the Power Rangers and also really into the VR Troopers. And although it hasn't held up as well, let's put it this way, the Power Rangers hasn't really held up that well. If you look back at the original series, some of the more recent stuff is okay. There is something about the VR Troopers because it was so different. And I think it was unique having the combination of the characters not on screen at the same time and the fight battles really added something and made it different. So that's it. That's VR Troopers done for this episode. 2 seasons, nearly 100 episodes. What did you like about the VR Troopers? Let me know, and you can do that by going to our socials, Facebook or Instagram at Retro Chat Podcast. You can tweet us at Retro Chat Pod, or you can visit the YouTube channel, which is Retro Chat Podcast UK. Don't forget, you can also subscribe to the show. Go to Spotify, Google, Apple, Amazon, Anchor, Stitcher, TuneIn, anywhere you can think of, and click subscribe to Retro Chat Podcast, or visit the website, which is retrochat.co.uk. That's it for now. We'll be back with more of the Retro Chat Podcast every week, right here on the podcast stream. Some great bonus shows coming up on Fridays, new episodes on a Monday. We'll see you very soon. Take care.